So for this tool review, I'm reviewing a Vevor vinyl cutter. At first, you might not really see how that could fit into woodworking, but I'm going to show you why I agreed to do this tool review, because there's a couple ways I could utilize this in the shop. And I've been playing around with this tool for about 2 months, and I actually really like it. Admittedly, most of what I'm making are vinyl stickers. And that's not really going to pertain to this video. I will show you how to use it for woodworking a little bit later on, because like I do with all these tool review videos, I do like to have a build project at the end so you can see how I utilize these tools in the shop. But in the beginning, just to get used to the machine and the programming, I did play around with some simple decals that you can get in the program. Now, I'm not going to do a big unboxing and show you what comes with the whole thing. Basically, it's a stand with a vinyl cutter and some accessories that can get you started printing basic stickers. The program they give you is a basic program. If you want to make drawings and customize stuff in the program, you have to get an upgraded version of that software. There is a discount code that came with mine. I didn't buy the upgrade yet. I might eventually buy it down the line. I'll speak a little bit later about why I didn't buy the upgrade. But as you can see, this is the basic machine. It's quite large. It sits next to my desk, but one of the first things I did was change the force and the speed. The company sent me over another YouTube video review from someone who's much more equipped to judge vinyl cutters than myself, because he actually has a business with vinyl cutters. I will add that to the description, but basically he helped me understand with my little knowledge what was in the box and some changes to make right off the bat to the machine to get it to work a little bit better. In the beginning, I hadn't watched that video yet, so in the beginning you could see I'm loading up the cutter into the adapter they give you, super simple. And this blue, the cutters they give you, the colors designate an angle on the bits, and I didn't know that when I first started. So the first couple ones you'll see I complain a little bit about the quality of the cut. Once I changed it over to the red tip cutter, everything worked much nicer. But it's very simple to put together. If you've ever put together any sort of modular furniture from IKEA or Walmart, you can put together this vinyl cutter. It's a simple task of downloading their software and getting going. Now, I know there's more popular software for vinyl cutters, but obviously I'm going to use the free software that they gave me. Once you get the cutter in place and pop this in, you're basically ready to go. So it's very simple to set up. The software is very simple to use. Obviously, it's one of those things where you can really buy the upgrade and learn how to use the software quite well. But for my purposes here, I don't really think I need to spend a ton of time learning how to use the software or buy the upgrade yet. But I loaded some paper in, and this was basically just testing this out. This is the first time cutting anything and the first time testing it out, and I had no problems with it. Now, I'm a little versed in computer programs. I've taught myself SketchUp. I know how to use Photoshop. So once you use programs like that a lot, I do feel like things are a little bit more intuitive. So someone who doesn't use a computer a lot, it might be a little bit harder to get this started up. But honestly, I had no problems with getting things going. You just want to set up the rollers right, and like I said, if you're really more interested in the technical side of this machine, I'll put a link to the video with the guy that actually runs a vinyl cutting business, and he can kind of tell you some of this stuff. But basically how I initially set up the machine was based on that video the company sent me. So then I was able to just video cam my screen, and this was the first time using the program. You could see there's some shapes you can import in the free program. Basic text and lettering, all that is free. You don't need the upgrade if you just want to do basic text. And they do have quite a large clip art bank, which is basically what I've been pulling from for the beginning of this. You can go through, and it's basically you just paste these onto the page, and then you can cut them out. So I made just a kind of a fun sign to start out with. Like I keep saying, this was the first sign I made first time playing around with the program, just basically lined things up and then sent them to the cutter. So you can play around with the sizing, the font, all of that. Like I said, so far everything in this program that you see is the free version. And then you could send it to the cutter, cut now, and it will cut it out. They ask you twice basically to cut it again. So that's what this is on the screen, showing the placement. Cut it again, and then it sends it to the cutter, and obviously the cutter cuts everything out. So like I said, with the blue tip cutter in there to start, I had a little bit of trouble with lettering, but now that I've switched it out to the red one, I don't have any issues at all. And basically this is how the cutter works. So one of my amateur mistakes was, you could see the vinyl isn't pushed all the way over to the edge of the machine. I do fix that as I go along. There were a couple amateur mistakes, like I said, getting used to using the new machine. But there are a lot of people with YouTube tutorials that will help you out. I kind of like to learn as I go. I remember things easier if I make mistakes myself and fix them. So that was kind of a little bit of how I went about learning this. So I printed everything in white, and then I put it onto a red background. You'll see how this is not the proper way to do this a little bit later on. But like I said, I did not watch the video with the guy explaining everything in the box before I started doing this. So there is transfer paper that comes with the kit, which will make this process much, much easier. But without using the transfer paper, you could see I'm kind of just sloppily putting things onto the piece. But this was just a fun sign to kind of get used to using the machine. Obviously, I'm not going to keep this for anything, but I was pleasantly surprised with how well it cut everything out, even using the wrong blade. And at this point, I realized that this machine was going to be quite fun. I was planning on using it in the shop, but I've also made a lot of stickers for people as well in the past couple months. That's pretty much how I got used to using it, was making stickers. So just another simple one. I have a trash can and a recycling that are quite similar. So they had a free recycling sign in their clip art library, so I could print it out. They give you a couple sheets of vinyl to start. In the video, if you watch it, the guy will tell you that this is not the best grade of vinyl, but obviously I'm just using this for fun, so I will go through I think they give you 5 rolls, a blue, a yellow, a red, a white, and a black, and I use that in the beginning. You can see this is the transfer paper they give you, so it makes life a lot easier. You can just pull the background off of that vinyl, use the transfer paper to transfer it onto a surface. And that's what that looks like. So then I started really playing around with laying out pieces. I also figured out at this point that if you go into the program and you go to settings, you can tell the printer where you want this to be printed so that you don't waste a ton of vinyl. So you can see I'm moving the X position over, and it moves my design over. That really helped with using as much vinyl as possible, the placement of it while you're printing. And then, like I said, all of this came from the free clip art. So I made a bird watching sign for the kitchen window. So I obviously printed this on black and then yellow, and then I could just put the black sticker on the yellow, use the transfer paper, and then just transfer it to the window. And like I keep saying, I've really enjoyed these cutters. I've enjoyed making these kind of fun stickers. And so far, using it, I haven't had any problems. I'll update the description on the longevity of the machine. I've read some reviews where people say they've had some problems after a couple months. But so far, I've used it easily 24 times, and I've had no issue. So then I decided to make some stickers for my nephews. They're at an age where things like cheese and farts are really funny. So there's a free clip art design of someone in a gas mask. So I just made them funny stickers to give to them. They could put it, well, with whatever my sister says they could put it somewhere in their room. And the nice thing is, at least this grade of vinyl, it's sticky, it will stick to stuff, but it's not permanent. You could easily peel stuff off of most surfaces. So like I said, it was just at this point I was just kind of compiling things and getting used to using the program. But you could go pretty far with free stuff. So the reason I haven't bought the additional program is because I realized on Etsy you can buy SVG files. SVG files are what you need to print on the vinyl printer. It can't be JPEGs or anything like that. So there are people, because I bought some branches to do the build portion of this video, who will sell rather cheaply files with like 40 SVG images, and that's what I did. So for like $1.50 I bought 40 files instead of learning how to make them myself. You could see I bought it off Etsy. I had it imported into the program. It's an SVG, and once it's in there you could play around and edit with it as well. I could use some of their free clip art, and then the text is obviously free as well to make a simple design, and then I could go from there. So for now, that's pretty much what I think I'm going to do instead of upgrading, is play around with just getting other people's files. I don't have a ton of time to learn a new program. So for now, I do like the option of being able to buy those files that are compatible with the color cutter versus having to make them myself. So then for this, I decided to make a pretty simple frame with, I guess you would call this a decor design for a house. So I mixed up a custom color that I liked. I call this cold steel blue because that's kind of what it reminds me of. And then I just laid out my graphics. Now I like stuff like this, and stuff like this actually sells really well. One of the reasons I don't really make stuff like this is because I go back and forth a lot on colors, design, layout. You'll see this is my initial layout and I change it multiple times. So sometimes it could just be really frustrating making something like this because there's so many options involved. It can be really time consuming doing woodworking in this way. This is just scrap plywood I had. I wanted to paint the lettering because I wanted a specific color, orange, and I didn't have the vinyl I needed. This is kind of like a golden orange color I mixed up. So what I did was I used the vinyl almost as a stencil in order to get that paint on there. So these are the two ways I'm planning on using this in the shop. First, to make stuff like this that can be turned into picture frames and probably sold, but then also as a pattern transfer. So I do a lot of carvings if you watch the channel, and now instead of printing stuff out to scale or anything like that, I could just print stuff out as stickers, transfer it to a wooden project, and have a perfect stencil. So I actually have a carving coming up in a month or so once I start posting videos again regularly, and you'll see how I'll use this vinyl cutter in order to transfer the stencil onto the wood. Just makes life a lot easier. So then to finish up this project, I made a really simple frame. This is not going to be a frame building tutorial. I already have one of those on my page, and this is solely a tool review, not necessarily a how-to. But basically I had some cedar laying around. I cut a very deep rabbet on the back, and then I could trim down all the edges to 45 degrees on all the edges in order to fit around that frame and glue it together and have a very simple cedar frame for this piece. So once all the paint was dry, I could pull the sticker off, and I was actually really happy with the stencil. There was little to no bleed through, which was what I was nervous about with this. And like I said, because the vinyl's sticky but not extremely sticky, I was able to peel it off without taking any of the blue paint or the orange paint off as well. You could already see I redesigned and the bird. It's now a black bird instead of a white bird, and then later you'll see I also changed the branch. This was multiple changes throughout the piece. Like I said, one of the reasons I don't make a ton of this stuff is because I really hem and haw about little decisions like that, little design details. So I glued up the frame, and then I just lightly sanded it down, and then I put 2 coats of an oil finish on there. I really like oil finishes. It makes the grain pop, and they're super simple and very forgiving to apply. So that was all that was the oil. I put it on there, let it soak in for about 5 minutes, and then wipe off the excess. You can see the tree branch at this point is now bigger than it was before, And then this frame just, I did put a clear coat on this because like I said, the vinyl isn't super sticky. I didn't want it to peel off down the line. So I put a satin clear coat on top of it, also as a protectant. And then that frame just slides right over the piece. So a very simple build to make a simple project, but this kind of opens a lot of avenues. If I've learned one thing during a move, it's that and I've known this in business before, it's really smart to have multiple sources of revenue. So I think this might be something I explore in the future, is making these smaller projects to sell. And this is going to be super convenient for that.